Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Black Men Speak. That's me doing my little theme music dance before the show. Um, but anyway, welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, the J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, TD3. It is Wednesday night, November the 12th, 2025. And if it is Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Men Speak. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new shows are uploaded, which is every Wednesday at the conclusion of this show at around 9 p.m. Central Time. And then if you're watching the show live, invite a friend, family member, a co-worker, a friend of me, it doesn't matter. Invite someone to come watch the show with you so you guys have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. And today is Hump Day. And with that being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring news and information about what's going on in the world to social media.
all right, folks, we have of course, a jam-packed show tonight. We definitely have a few condolences that we're going to have to offer for some folks that you probably do know. Of course, the great Lenny Wilkins passed this past week, in addition to the very highly publicized Marshawn Nealon from the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, yesterday was Veterans Day, among other holidays, so we're going to have to spend a couple of minutes to honor and acknowledge those who have served in any capacity in the armed forces. Of course, we just found out, I think, if it has not done so, probably within the next hour, it looks like a bill should be signed that is opening the government back up. But it's some interesting
Yay.
politics, of course, going along with that, with 8 Dems crossing the line. And we're going to talk a little bit about something we've talked about before, but it's been a while. There's the ongoing war in Sudan, the power struggle there, in addition to sports. So we've got a lot to talk about this evening, and let's go ahead and get this show started, Jimmy.
Well, Tom, before we get started,
Yes.
we'll be remiss if we don't mention that our news director and co-host here, Tommy D. Duncan III, got a year older, but yesterday? So
Yeah,
happy birthday.
let's call it a year wiser. Hopefully, a year
Okay,
wiser.
a year wiser then, yesterday. So let's all give Tommy a big hand and a congratulations. Um,
Okay. All right,
and
there we go.
when we get to sports, I'm going to have to mention your Texas Aggies, number 3 in the
I got
nation.
something to, okay, Jimmy, I got something to say. I got something to say there about the Kansas City.
So we'll wait till sports and we'll cover those Aggies. So
All
anyway, go
right.
ahead.
Let's go ahead and get started. We have got to pay honor and homage to one of the greatest players and coaches in the NBA, the great Lenny Wilkens, NBA Hall of Fame player and coach. Became an ancestor this past Sunday at the age of 88, surrounded in his home.
Wow, 88. I didn't know it was that old.
Exactly. He was a 9-time All-Star as a player and also coached the Seattle Supersonics to their one and only NBA title in 1979. He coached, which of course, several teams. And Wilkins is one of only 5 people enshrined into the NBA Hall of Fame as both a player and a coach.
Wow.
Inducted as a player in 1989 and then as a coach in 1998. Wilkins coached 32 seasons. Absolutely amazing, holding the record for till today the most games coached in NBA history.
Okay.
And in addition to the 1979 Sonics title, he also coached the U.S. Olympic team to gold medals in 1992 and 1996. Played 15 seasons, of course, in the NBA, primarily as a point guard, and has been honored with a statue and a street named after him outside of the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle. So we definitely want to give our condolences to the NBA family, those who are in the overall sports family, his loved ones, and everyone who knew and who he impacted. This is a great loss to not just the sports world, but also to the humankind world. He was a great person. Always, Jimmy, I remember I was very young when he was
Now, I
coaching.
remember him as a player and a coach.
Yeah, yeah, and he always was a class act, carried himself with dignity and pride, and he was a role model. I mean, there are some athletes out there and some folks who says, we're not role models, we're players, but this guy was a role model par excellence, and made an influence on millions of people around the world. And so, of course, we wanted to take a few minutes to let him know how much we thank what he did for the basketball world, thank what he did, for our communities, and again, our condolences to his family and friends. Another highly publicized loss this past week, of course, as most folks in the Dallas area know, or the Cowboys Nation. Marshawn Nealand, a defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, was found deceased from an alleged self-inflicted gunshot wound on November 6th. Hours before his death, Nealon had been pulled over for a traffic incident. Police in Plano were called to conduct a welfare check at Nealon's home on the evening of November the 5th after concerns were raised about his well-being. Nealon, an NFL second round draft pick in 2024, had just marked his first NFL touchdown earlier the week during the Cowboys Monday Night Football game with the Cardinals. And Nealon was just 24 years old. This was a stunning and very sad situation, and I think there are a lot of unanswered questions for a lot of people about the incident surrounding his death. Jimmy, it's just very very concerning. Of course, you talk about mental health issues, of course, that they put out there, and no one really has all the answers as to how and why this could have happened.
Well, the how is pretty much explained, but no one's explained the why. At least I haven't heard any reports on the why. Um, and there are lots of questions. I mean, a young man that age that's scheduled to make over $4 million as a second round draft pick. It seems like you're at least on the track to be building a good life for yourself. I haven't heard any interviews from the girlfriend say they had problems, but somehow the league office got involved, and they're the ones who called and asked for the welfare check. So I'm not sure how reports got to them for them to be concerned enough to call the Plano Police Department to go check on them. So hopefully more information will be shared, Tom, in the future, and we can kind of figure this out. But right now, we seem to have more questions than answers.
We do, and with it being an alleged self-inflicted suicide, basically, we see a lot of stories, Jimmy, in instances of suicides from young kids just in grammar school to adults. And, mental health is real. We cannot take it for granted. I'm not saying that this was a mental health catastrophe that could have happened to this young man that seemed to have everything ahead of him, his life ahead of him, playing with, one of the, well, by far the most valuable brand, I think, in sports in the world. It just doesn't seem to add up. So hopefully, his family will get some answers that can give them some consolation as to how this could happen to someone who had so much ahead of him, Jimmy. It's
All right,
just
you
very
did.
sad. And we
Very
want to,
sad.
of course, provide our condolences to his loved ones, to the Dallas Cowboy fan nation, and everyone who's known him and been associated with him. And so hopefully we'll get more answers in the future.
Okay.
All right, we've got one more. Probably someone that most folks may not be as familiar with, but we had an NBA player who we just lost this past week. Former All-Star guard Michael Ray Richardson passed this
Oh,
past.
this is Michael Ray Richardson.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the age of 70 years old. So, he's kind of one of those old school players when they used to play some real defense, Jimmy.
Hmm.
He played the NBA from 1978 to 86 and was the number four pick in the 1978 draft by the New York Knicks. Became a three-time All-Star with New York and made an All-Star team again with the New Jersey Nets in the 1984-85 season. He led the NBA in steals per game three times and led the league in assists per game once in a career that saw him play for the Knicks, the Nets, and the Golden State Warriors. So, I think the life expectancy for folks in our category, Jimmy, is right around 69 is some odd years old. So it looks like he just made that, but still, definitely passed too young. So we want to offer our condolences to him, to his family, to the, of course, NBA family, and those who knew and loved him. So we definitely want to offer our condolences as well. So that is what we have today, Jimmy. And to your point, a little bit earlier with yesterday being Veterans Day, we've got to take a couple of minutes to talk about Veterans Day, since it was just yesterday, of course. I want to thank you for your service because you have served in the military, Jimmy, and I know many of our families, friends, loved ones, parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, great grandparents have served in the military. So I'll let you kind of lead off in talking about this date that we commemorate to honor those who have served.
Well, Tom, thanks for that, and we give a great thanks to all of the veterans out there who served, who are currently living, who have passed away. So, um, I mean, military life is not easy. It takes a toll on families, and so you also have to give a big thanks to the wives and the children of service members, spouses and children, because women serve also, of our service members, and for the sacrifice they have to make also to support the serving spouse. So, Black Man Speak officially gives our thanks to all of the active service members and for all of the things they do to keep us safe, and let them know that we appreciate the great work.
All right, absolutely. And I want to lift up and honor our my cousin, who actually served in the military in the Marine,
Okay.
Quincy Griggs. He actually lives in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but I remember we were young in our 20s. He served in the military. And actually, my Uncle Fred, who is deceased, he's been passed for about 3 years now. I believe he served in the Army. He was very, I was very young at that time, but I think my Uncle Fred, and I remember seeing in my grandmother's house back in the day, the old White House we used to call it. He had pictures of all the boys and all the girls. There were 4 boys and 4 girls, and I remember seeing him with the military, with his little uniform on, with his hat. He didn't look too happy, Jimmy, but he did serve.
Yeah, it's not an easy life, Tom. It is a hard life, but for those who make the sacrifice to keep us safe, willing to put their lives on the line, we all owe them a great deal of thanks.
Absolutely. So, for those out there who did serve, we want to thank you. Of course, those who have family members who have lost their lives, who have served, and who are serving now. Make sure that you acknowledge them and thank them for their service.
Yes,
They have a very hard job, and I remember when I used to travel quite a bit. The guys who would have the hats in their branch of the military, I would always make sure I took the time if I was in the airport, on a plane, or whatever the case is, just to thank them for their service because a lot of times, especially those of our ancestors, they did not always get the recognition that they deserved.
true.
They did, especially in the earlier years in the 20th century. So you have to thank them for what they did to sacrifice for our freedom.
Right.
All right. We'll take a couple of minutes to acknowledge a couple of folks that we have on the chat line.
Who
Looks
you
like
have, Tom?
cousin Audrey on the chat line. Want to thank her and thank you for that birthday wish. Many more, and then also Ms. Tanya. Want to thank her as well for wishing me happy birthday on the chat line as well. And Uncle Asar is in the house as well. So want to thank him for joining us today as well. I want to thank him. He said he said I'm still old, even though I said I'm 1 year wise. He said I'm still old. That's okay. We're good friends.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with Uncle Star, a lot of information. We need to bring Uncle Star back.
We
That was
will.
probably one of the most fun shows we had in a long time.
Yes, we did.
So, um,
Yes, we did. We'll have to have him on kind of, I guess, at a cadence. Every however many months or weeks or whatever the case is, because he is a great and valued resource. So, all right, let's
let's
go
jump
ahead.
into our stories, Tom. What's our first story for tonight?
All right, Jimmy. Couple of things. We've got a couple of stories here. One thing that I found earlier today, and we don't say a whole heck of a lot. Oh, we got Miss Marion Square
Hey, Mary.
just joined us. We want to thank her as well. We've had our say about what goes on with the church. And I saw an article a little bit earlier today that I had to at least bring up, Jimmy.
Okay.
That actually got something right. A local Dallas church that surprised about 200 of its worshipers in the congregation who had been struggling, of course, with the government shutdown because a lot of them were federal workers and were without checks. And of course, we always pray for those who are in need, but they actually did something more tangible. But Concord Baptist Church, actually,
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Tom. Let me move on.
Concord Baptist Church actually surprised 200 of its worshipers this past weekend. Many who had been struggling during the long government shutdown received a $2,000 check to help with mortgage payments, utilities, and food. Federal workers who had gone without pay for more than a month were asked to come to the altar. The workers had been asked to sign up for a prayer list previously to help identify those in need for the prayer list. However, in their recent service, Pastor Brian Carter, actually one of our frat brothers as well, said that while the surprise was a spotlight, he wanted to make sure that they acknowledge that churches do good work and give quite quietly in some cases, but that this was something to help support, or do a little bit to support those who were struggling financially during the government shutdown, which I think was about 40 days, give or take. And so we want to definitely give our hats off to Concord Baptist Church for helping support those during their time in need.
I'm pretty sure there's more churches some that are
Oh,
doing stuff,
absolutely.
but this is what churches are supposed to do. I mean, your
Of
tithe
course.
and your 10% that go to the church is supposed to go to help people whose crop didn't come in, who's having a hard time. They can always turn to the church to get by. It wasn't to put pastor in a Gulfstream 5 and a Bentley and a new Rolls Royce and a big house. So I'm glad to see that someone finally figured out that some of the money that people give to the church is actually supposed to go to help people.
Exactly,
So
because there are a
we'll
lot of
give you
people
a shout out.
there are a lot of people who are very, of course, can be very critical, and I understand, and we are, we keep our eye on that as well. But this
Nobody's
is
more critical than me, so
I understand. And this is just to show that there are some churches out there that are quietly doing a lot of work. They're not in the business of putting, PR as the every time they do something good. So we do want to acknowledge when they are actually supporting in a
correct.
tangible way, not just taxing and not serving. But most churches do this, especially in the black church, of course, because, we have always within the black church served multiple different purposes, not just providing their spiritual food, but tangible food, helping to find jobs and things of that nature as well. So hats off to Concord Baptist Church and Brian Carter for doing a great job. So, and kind of getting to the point. Of course, if it hasn't happened already, probably within the next hour, I think there should be a piece of paper that should be signed that is going to be opening the government back up to its full capacity. After the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, the federal government seems to be going back to work after 8 Dems crossed the aisle to back a Republican spending bill.
Well, you had 7 Democrats and 1 independent in the Senate,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
8 Democrats in the House.
I will put it this way: 8 senators, 7 Democrats, and 1 independent that caucuses with the Democratic
The
Party.
caucus with the Democrats,
Which
yeah.
makes yeah,
And then eight Democrats in the House, 8 or 6,
eight
eight, I
senators.
think it was 8.
8 senators. It was 8 senators, not 8 members
No,
of
in the House, the House had to vote on the bill also because they amended it.
right.
So we went back to the House for a vote, which is taking place tonight. But you had 8 Democrats in the House who voted with the Republicans to reopen. So
In the
that
Senate.
bill is going to the president's desk tonight
Right.
for signature.
Right. Eight Democrat. Well, 7 plus 1 in the Senate.
That was in the Senate, but in the House had to re-vote on the bill again because they
Of
amended
course.
it in the Senate.
Yeah, they had to vote on it again.
So yeah, you had 8 Democrats in the House who joined with Republicans. 2 Republicans decided they didn't want to vote for to reopen government, but luckily they had 8 Democrats who decided to vote with them in the House, and so the bill passed and it's on its way to the president's desk
Right.
for signature.
Right. So I think that's supposed to be happening this evening, and it
That
was
should happen tonight. The government should be reopened officially tomorrow morning.
right. And once amended, the legislation should include, I think, 3 full year spending bills, funding through January 30th of next year. So it's not a long term deal, and language reversing the mass layoffs of government employees that were ordered during the shutdown. And as I guess, a negotiation point, Majority Leader John Bethune promised a vote on a bill to extend expiring ACA Affordable Care Act
Yeah,
subsidies.
Tom, he can promise all you want, and he can take a vote, but the House is not going to take that bill up. They won't even get up and down vote in the House. So Speaker Johnson has already pretty much said that if that bill were to pass in the Senate, which is doubtful, because you're going to still need 51 Republicans, you'll still need 51 votes. So they'll have to get some Republicans to join them. in that effort. And so far, no Republicans have given them any support.
Which
So,
there's that, and there's no surprise there, Jimmy. I mean, for those who decided to cross the line, God bless them. I don't know what they ended up getting out of the deal,
nothing.
but exactly, and that's the whole point.
So
Which
you want to starve children over in the end for nothing. I mean, all this was just an exercise of futility that didn't have to happen. Uh, so, like and I hate to keep harping on this, Tom. I'm going to say it again. Um, the reason now this is not the same Republican Party 10 years ago or 20 years ago, where the Republicans would have caved by now. And whether Democrats are in charge or not, they would still be running the show, even when Republicans were in charge. And that's just the way things were. This Republican Party now has with the leadership of President Trump, whether you like him or not, the Orange Man who provides protection for him. But they are very emboldened now, a lot stronger than they ever been. They develop a pair and a backbone. So now they realize it is okay to stand up to Democrats when they come at you. And so I was surprised that the Republicans did not budge an inch and cave, because like I said, normally that's what they would have done in the past. Um, so they're standing their ground. Democrats didn't get anything out of this, so this whole shutdown is for nothing. And but hey, we may have to go through it again at the end of January 31st, because that's when the other non-appropriation bills, if they're not passed by then, we may still be looking at another government shutdown. So we'll see what
absolutely,
happens.
and so this is. I mean, you're not talking about a very long period of time. You're already midway through November. You got about 2.5 or 2 months and some change left. And so, we'll see what happens between now and then. But, in my opinion, this just kind of shows the soft backbone or whatever you want to call it of the Democratic Party, the lack of leadership on their behalf. I mean, the reality of it is, why even go through all of this cycle just to go through this and get absolutely nothing of any consequence after this? And so, at the end of the day, those who cross the aisle, they're not up for re-election. I think a couple of them are supposed to be retiring. And the reality of it is, it didn't hurt them any. But unfortunately, for the Dems, from they have no one who is going to shut down anyone like that or make it very difficult, for anyone who crosses the line like that. And so they, unfortunately, for them, they have a lack of unity. And that is why a lot of people have lost complete trust in the Democratic Party, because they don't seem to stand for very much that they can hold water on. And this just shows a lack of discipline and unification on their part.
Well, Tom, they actually do stand for some things, just they stand for nonsense. And actually, one of the stories we're going to cover tonight on Tish Hyman is one of those nonsensical things the Democrat Party seem to stand for. So just they get back to just common sense support. They used to be the party that supported education. Used to be the party that supported the poor and working class people. They've
They
gotten away
do.
from
They
that.
do. They,
They've
they
gotten
do more so than the
now.
Republican Party.
I'm sorry.
I think they still do more so than the Republican Party if you look at the effects of what they are funding.
Oh, I don't think so, Tom. But that could be another. We can have another show on that. I
And we
think
can.
the Republican Party have pretty much stolen the working man, especially in the middle of the country, not maybe the East and West Coast, but definitely made inroads into the working class segment. Made inroads with Latinos, made inroads with blacks, made
And
inroads
that's
with
flipping
people,
back because of their policies.
and had a lot to do with their policies, Tom. I mean, the
And
Democrat
that's and
Party.
that and that's and that's why though and that's why some of those factors are flipping back because of what they're seeing.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the elections are coming up in
There's what
November.
they were told and there's what they're getting.
So we have midterm elections in November. The president
Exactly.
elections
And
in 2028. So we'll see
they've
whether
got some work to do.
these gains are going to hold or not. So, but the way it's going, Tom, I don't see the Democrat Party with no leadership standing up for the alphabet community, standing up for all of the craziness, boys and women's sports, men and women's bathrooms. I don't see how they get elected dog catcher supporting those kind of policies. And then to put the country through all of this hell, what to provide COVID subsidies, medical insurance subsidies to illegals? And
Jimmy, that's not what that's about. And so I understand I understand what the far right narrative is on that. But I mean, show the evidence where there's a significant number of subsidies for healthcare going to illegals.
well, Tom, money is fungible, like someone once said. And if I give you $10 to put on a bill, and you can take that $10 and say you spend it on the bill, or you can spend the $10 in someplace else and replace it with another $10. So it really doesn't matter where you actually spend it if you didn't spend it for what the money was allocated for. And
Right.
a lot of the blue states do that. They take federal money and they say, well, we're not going to extend benefits to illegals, but they do. And so, but if you're not spending your own
Where
dollars, if you're
let's
spending
find the
your own
receipt.
dollars or
Let's
federal dollars,
find the receipt so we can have that conversation.
okay, we can have a conversation on another
Right.
show.
Right.
But that money for those states actually do spend. They do spend the money, whether it's their money. And all the federal government is saying, well, if that's the case, then you spend your own money to support these programs and don't take federal dollars. So that way, there's no confusion. But they don't want to stop taking the federal dollars. But anyway, actually, Tom, this would be a good segment to go into the Tish Hyman story,
Okay, let's
if you
do
don't
that.
mind.
Sure.
Do you want to play the video, or you want to tell what her situation is?
I wasn't familiar with it because I couldn't. The name was spelled wrong, so I wasn't sure if that was the person or it was Tisk Hyman. So you go ahead and play the video and or kind of give the framework of
Okay,
it.
I didn't know much about her until the story went viral last week. But evidently, she's a black woman. But it doesn't matter if she's black, white, red, brown, yellow. Just as a woman, I would still stand up for and defend her. And she's working out at Gold's Gym. And then, as she's getting undressed, a man walks into the shower room who identifies as a woman. And he gets undressed with all his male body parts exposed. And so she gets upset and she goes and files a complaint to Gold's Gym that there's a man in the locker room. And she starts to complain when they ask her to leave. And she wouldn't leave. And somehow the news cameras showed up. I don't know if she left and came back with the news crew, but a news crew came back. And then she was asked not only to leave, but Gold's Gym also canceled her membership. Now, while this is happening, there are men who are walking in the corridor because the men and women's bathroom are right next to each other, shower facilities. So there are men walking by. And what surprised me, Tom, this is California, main hub and headquarters for the crazies on the left. That not one man who walked by stopped and lent any support for her. You know, I mean, she's still a woman, whether you like black people or don't, whether you're a KKK member or a racist, it doesn't matter. Like I said, if it was a woman, I don't care what color, and it was me, I would have stopped and defended the sister or any other woman in that situation. I mean, I have two daughters and an adopted daughter. I have a sister, I have a mother, I have a bunch of friends who are women. And there's just this kind of craziness is something I just can't get with, period. And I'm not sure why there aren't more men standing up for the women in these situations. Boys in women's bathroom, men in women's sports. There has to be something that's sacred for women as a carve out. In a bathroom, and you taking a shower, and a man walks in undressed with all his male body parts exposed, it's not, I don't think, it's something that the average woman wants. So I stand up for Tish Hyman and all the women that find themselves in this situation, and for young girls who are being invaded in this way and have their privacy invaded by deranged men who identify as women or boys who just want to peek and see what's going on in the girls' bathroom and claim they identify as a woman. And we do have a video of Tish and her complaint. Let's pull it up real quick. And for some reason, Tom, I know we uploaded the video a second time, and I still don't see it. Oh, there it is. Let's see what she has to say.
Oh, let's see what we got. We able to pull it up?
I tried to. It's not playing, but anyway, the first upload didn't play either. So we'll just leave it at that. We may revisit it next week and play the video. But if you haven't already, you can look up her name on social media and watch the video for yourself.
Yeah, and so for what it's worth, I mean, I didn't know a lot about this particular incident. It looks, I mean, California state law does allow folks to use the locker room based upon their identity, so to speak. And so I don't know all, and I can't say that I don't recall what gym it was, but obviously, if there is, a outrage against this particular incident, I don't know if the person tried to attack or assault this person, or if it was just the fact that they came in there. Obviously, if she was
walking in there like it's okay, it's not okay.
A popular singer-songwriter claims she was booted from a Gold's Gym in Los Angeles after getting into a heated, caught-on-camera confrontation with a transgender woman. she had filed complaints against for using the women's locker room. The controversy exploded when Tish Hyman posted a video of a brief shouting match with the transgender gym goer, who was dressed in all black and accessorized with a pair of dangling earrings.
No, now he knows how to be a man, right? Now he knows how to be a man. Stay out of the women's locker room. He needs to have his gym membership revoked for that. And the woman told you. He assaulted me. The girl told already. We already filed reports. You can't get rid of me for this. I'm a woman and I have every right to not want a man in the restroom when I'm naked. There are girls naked in there. Look at them walking in there like it's okay. It's not okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks for pulling that up. Let's see if we can get it off.
Okay, Tom, we have lost our feed. Let's see if we can get our feedback.
All right, there we go. Well, that's part of it. I don't know how
Part
we
of
get
it,
it.
but it's not the original one. So I apologize for that. So,
right.
there we go. All right.
So yeah, I mean, and I don't know what gym this is.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Gold Gym. So I was looking at the optics, the background, who was around, so on and so forth. I didn't see any brothers, walking back and forth. I saw about.
It doesn't matter, Tom. Some of the white guys.
What I'm saying is what I'm. Go ahead and then I'll finish.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was saying is I was looking for any, who was in the background, men, women, brothers. And I didn't see any brothers in the background, but it doesn't particularly make a difference. One thing I did notice is the tone level. Obviously, she seemed to be combative, which, I mean, she has a right to be combative, but I don't know the specific as to why they revoked her membership. Obviously, it's state law that someone can go into a locker room based upon their identity, not their natural birthright. And so in this case, they would be going against state law. But on the other side, in terms of someone stopping to provide, there did not seem to be a fight or a confrontation. Obviously, but this particular June, I'm assuming this is not the first time she's been there.
No, she said it happened before. So this is her second complaint against. And Tom, I guess the reason that probably decided to revoke her membership, since it is state law,
it is.
It gives them every right to go in there if he identifies as a woman. And for her to want to block that may infringe upon his state right that's been issued to him.
And you're talking about more. You're talking about a biggest lawsuit there.
Right.
With state light, and so they're probably at the end of the day they're probably looking at this against the law. So either you got to go to another gym, or you got to look at another option in this case if it's state law, because ultimately what the business is going to be looking at is lawsuits, and that's the end game, the lawsuit, which is going to cost them a lot of money.
Well, I still say that real men should stand up for women.
I would agree, and I guess there were no real men there, even though
they're worthy of protection, Tom.
Yeah, I saw about 7 or 8 guys passing by, but I guess
walking by.
Real men.
That's what irritated me. Is like not one of them stopped to help the sister out, and they knew what the complaint was. So this is California.
They probably didn't care.
All I can say is, Tish, move to Texas. What's our next story, T?
All right, Jimmy, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the Sudan. We talked about this probably about a year or so ago because, of course, there was a fight for power in Sudan. And this is, gone from bad to worse, of course, in the eastern region of the African continent in Sudan. There have been 2 warring factions, and I think there are about 150,000 people who have died over this. But Sudan, plans into a civil war initially in 2023 over a power struggle between the army general at that time and a powerful paramilitary group, what they call the Rapid Support Forces. That has led to famine and claims of genocide by many across the country. More than 150,000 people have perished. 12 million have been displaced from their homes, Jimmy, in addition to theft, brutal assault and rape, and it's a bad situation that nobody seems to care about and or be talking about any significant.
That's not true, Tom. America is talking about it. We have filed formal complaints and charges for genocide against those involved.
Formal complaints.
And just a little bit more background. The country had had experimented with Democrat rule for a short minute before the general overthrew the government. And then another force decided to fight against that force. So you
Right.
have two military forces fighting each other, but the people still want Democratic rule. They want to go back to civilian rule, Tom. They want to have self-governance, and I think they see that as their path to get out of the hole that they're in prosperity and turn the country around. But you have these two groups now who are fighting each other, and the people are caught in the middle, and thousands upon thousands of people are dying. This is a typical story in Africa. We hear it over and over, and unfortunately, there's not enough here by Western countries or even Eastern countries to get involved. I don't know what resources that Sudan has. They have
Go.
some rare earth minerals, but evidently may not be enough for the powers that be to go there and stabilize the environment. So they probably can buy whatever they want and do whatever they want from whatever warlord dictator ends up surviving the civil war. But in the middle are going to be thousands upon thousands of people, women being raped, kids being killed. It's a sad situation.
Well, I just find it kind of cute when the United States literally threatens war against certain countries, but they file a piece of paper when it comes to Sudan. Sudan, of course, just like every other African country, does have rare earth minerals, including gold and gold as well, in which, of course, the two warring factions are fighting for control and access to those rare earth minerals as well. That is, of course, going to fund what they want. And the reality of it is, this has been going on for a very long time. But to your point, Jimmy, in a lot of cases, they do want self rules, but very few African countries, even though they have democracy, there is no self-rule in the democracy, because in a democracy, supposedly, or let's call it a republic, really, the representatives, including the president, actually represent and support the people. And as we've talked about in too many cases, because European and or so-called Western countries control the politics of many African countries, the majority of African countries, there's very little democracy, really rarely any republic there. There is just, unfortunately, disruption and turmoil and war, so that ensures access to those rare mineral resources given to Western countries, so they can continue to hold up.
But Tom, where are the African countries? I mean, if Kenya can send troops to Haiti to help their situation, they
They got
can't
bribed to do
send,
that.
huh?
They got bribed to do that.
They what?
They got bribed to do that by the United States.
Okay. Well, I mean, once again, 52 nations in Africa, and none of them could step up and help stabilize the situation in Sudan. Um, I know us filing charges against those for genocide may not seem like much, but it will prevent, it does have some repercussions with whoever ends up surviving this. They won't be able to leave the country, or there will be very few places they could travel with the money that they looted from the national treasury. Um, so it would have an impact on them, and who knows, they may get caught someplace and be brought to trial one day. We'll see. But there are still nations in Africa that can help out also. This is your neighbor, your fellow brethren, African brethren and sisters. So if anybody should step up first, some of the Democrat African nations should step to the plate first. They should be the first one to send troops, money, and resources to help stabilize Sudan. So it didn't always have to be Western powers that step in to do this,
Well,
especially when we criticize Western powers for the influence over Africa.
Well, this is where the reconciliation begins, and it will never happen without a fight, without a war. Is that Western nations will not get their grubby hands out of Africa, because most of their economies are held up by African rare mineral resources, and so as a result of it, it benefits Europe, it benefits America, it benefits most of these countries to keep disruption, war, and turmoil in Africa, so that they can have free carte blanche access to those mineral resources in order to keep holding up their economy. That's why France is falling apart, because the West African nations have been kicking them out, and they've been falling apart ever since then. Number one,
Well,
number two,
France immigration
and the
policies and
reality
some
of
of
it,
their social taxes has also brought them down also, Tom. So what
France,
they had,
France, France would
they
be
lost
nothing.
access to,
France would be nothing without Africa, as most European nations would not be anything without Africa, because that's how most of them built their economies. Number
well,
one.
it is
Number
true.
two, most
They
of the
have
West
they,
countries
they
would
have
also,
raped and stolen quite a bit out of Africa. So
In addition to providing the arms to make sure that they can continue to murder, kill, and maim each other. And the reality of it is, I understand that war is a big business, is the biggest business in the world. But at the end of the day, the West profits from instability and turmoil in Africa, in Haiti, and in most other Black African countries.
Well, Tom, it's not just the
That is
West.
the
It's the
bottom
North
line.
Koreans, it's the Russians, it's China. So it's the East also. Everybody's selling military arms to whoever has money to want to buy it.
But
So,
unlike the Western countries, they are not controlling them politically. They did not write their constitutions. They are not maintaining control over those countries and ensuring that anyone who fights for freedom of the people and serves and supports the people, just like in Haiti, end up being murdered. And that's at the hands of folks who are outside of the country. Even though there's somebody inside the country who pulls the trigger, there's somebody's paying for that, and it ain't in the country.
okay.
So,
Okay, what's our next story?
next 40, this is probably a small, interesting one, Jimmy, that probably I will call it a nostalgic story, but the U.S. Mint has declared, and we've talked about this before, and I think you forecasted it, that they are going to stop printing the American penny. I think after this last batch is up, I think they have officially made the announcement. Don't go out there crying for those of us who are old school, who are used to counting pennies, so we can help, keep this thing chiseled here. But that doesn't mean the penny is going away. But I think there are about 1.1 billion pennies in circulation, but they're going to stop printing them primarily because of the cost of it. I think it's about 3 to 4 times as much.
Yeah, Tom, it costs more to make a penny than what the penny's worth.
But that is all of our currency, whether it's the penny, the nickel, the dime, it's everything. But at any rate, the decision has been made, in which, by the way, the penny is the most popular coin that has been printed by the U.S. Mint since it was first established in the late 1700s. So for those of you who are nostalgic, make sure that you keep those what might be collector's items in the
Yeah, or whatever the last year, they print them some, hold on to it, pass it on to your children, your grandchildren, and maybe worth
Yeah.
something one day.
My dad used to have this huge glass, and he might still have it someplace. He has this huge glass canister that he would put pennies in when I was growing up, and over the years, it got massive. And I don't know how much money was in there, and I think it's been about a year or so now. He finally took it to the bank and had him put it in this big machine and count it all up and then put it into his bank account. And now,
Oh no, Tom, because some
oh
of them
no,
coins are worth more than the dollar value of them. When they
yeah,
actually put real silver in some of the coins, especially if they date back to the 50s and 60s.
yeah, I know. So for those of you out there who have those piggy banks, those big cans of penny, you might want to hold on to them.
Especially the coins where they made a mistake on. Those coins are worth a hell of a lot more, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars if you have one where the men actually made a mistake on. So, yeah, I wish your dad would have talked to me before he went to the
Yeah,
bank. You should have stopped him, Tom.
yeah,
You
I
know, I went
know.
to buy the
I
collection
know,
from
but
him.
yeah, I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and I was like, all right, Pop, I can't say no. So, want to acknowledge a couple of other people who joined the chat line. Miss
Who else do
Carol,
we have?
Miss Carol joined the chat line. And let me see, Brother John Williams, CPA Extraordinary Esquire, jumped on the chat line as well. So I want to thank him for joining us as well. Jimmy, we're about a quarter until the top of the hour, so we've got to take a few minutes for some sports. We had some big news this past weekend, of course, for those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Those NBA fans, probably everybody knows by now that Nico Harris, the general manager for the Dallas Mavericks, is no longer. He was fired this past week, Jimmy. Of course, there was a lot of turmoil and controversy when, of course, Luka was packaged and sent to the LA Lakers for Anthony Davis. I think maybe one or two other players whose names I forget right now, but that
Yeah, I
is,
think we got Anthony Davis, we got Christie, and there was another player I can't remember. So we got 3 players out of the deal. But AD has been hurt quite
so
a bit.
the question would be, and I think a lot of people are pushing this because the Mavericks are, I think, 3-8 right now. We haven't even gotten through 10% of the season. But at the end of the day, the best player, really the guy who runs the offense, of course, Kyrie Irving, is still out. So it's probably going to be a little while before he gets back. And so there is no surprise that they're not doing so hot right
He'll be
now.
back after the All-Star break.
When the quarterback, when the literal quarterback for the team comes in, that's just like saying that Dak Prescott, is injured until halfway through the season. The Cowboys are going to probably be doing worse than they are now.
So the Harris firing has more to do with the record one, and the fact that Luca, for the first year since he was drafted, came to camp in shape. He dropped a lot of weight. He's averaging 39 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists a game. So he's having an MVP performance so far, and he's healthy. AD is
For
still.
the first time in his NBA career. And I guess it took this for him to take it seriously because he wasn't doing it for the
He
Mavericks.
wasn't doing it for the marriage time, but you know what? LA may be a good market for him, and then teaming up with LeBron, because you know LeBron's 40 plus years old, but he's in great shape. I
He
mean, that
is.
guy is chiseled. He eats well. He exercises year round. He doesn't have a bunch of nagging injuries that you get from being out of shape. So his injuries are a little different,
Which
but
Luca had.
which Luca had. He was starting to get him, and it was only going to get worse if he didn't get the weight off and get in shape. So maybe being around LeBron has probably influenced him in a positive way. But all I know now is that he's balling in, he's balling out, he's balling up and down. He's having an MVP. He's showing the Mavericks that maybe y'all shouldn't have traded me. But um, but Tom, for the season that he was here, 7 seasons, nothing could get his attention. And once again, he was this last year with the Mavericks. He was the heaviest he had ever been. So the problem just kept getting worse with his weight.
And I
So
think bottom line, what that means is that it really wouldn't have mattered. He needed to be traded. I mean, I know a lot of Mavericks fans may not want to hear that, but you know, he is a great scorer. But unfortunately for the Mavericks, he was a one-way player, which was
no
offensive play.
defense,
He
hard to
played
keep
absolutely no
rebounds.
defense. And you know, to Nico Harrison's point, you know what? I'm trying to win championships, and I cannot have the leader of my team being a one-way player because he's going to influence the other players on the team, which is not a good thing if you're supposed to be one of the best players. If you look at the best players in the league over the last generation, whether that is LeBron James, whether that is Stephon Curry, you know, whomever you want to look at, they're great two-way players. The greatest of all time,
Well, you got to
MJ.
get skills, you got to
And
pass, you got to rebound.
MJ was Michael Jordan was all defense, even though you look at
All
him
that
as
5 or 6 times, yeah.
exactly. So
Three MVPs, he was all defensive player too. So
and so I don't think Luca ever, unfortunately, would have reached his potential with the Mavericks.
no, he
Obviously,
wouldn't have.
this got his attention, and even though Mavericks fans were calling for the head of Nico Harris, I don't. I think it was the right decision to trade him because I don't believe that the Mavericks would have won a championship with him because he didn't respect the game when he was in Dallas.
I thought the trade was the right thing to do also, but I was hoping that AD would be. Um, we wouldn't get all the points that we would lose with, but between AD and Christie, I figured they could make up the points we lost with Luca. But AD could also give you some rebounding, shot blocking, some other things that Luca was providing. So I thought maybe we would win out. But AD has to be healthy for that to happen, and
And
he's
and
been
he's
injury prone.
and he's off the court seemingly more than he is on the court. Every time you look around,
Yeah.
he's injured for another couple of months. And the reality of it is, it wasn't a good. It was a better trade for the Lakers than it is for the Mavericks because I could have told you AD was going to be a problem, not because of his
We
potential,
were
but
hoping,
because of
man, that maybe he had all his injury stuff behind him. The other thing that cost Harris his job was he was a brainchild to try to make Cooper Flag a point forward for the Mavericks. Now, you know what? I watched. I can't pronounce his entire name. I just call him Wembley, the center down in power forward down in
right
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
That guy's 7'5" Tom, but he handles the ball like a point guard.
He does.
I mean, he can
He
dribble, he
does.
can shoot, he got moves, he can drive, he can post up. I don't think there's anything he can't do. He did a job on the Mavericks early in the season when they first played. I think the season opener. If you want him to handle the point, I say go. You know, more power to you. Go ahead, because he can handle the ball. Cooper Flag, the knock against him coming out of Duke was that he's not a great ball handler. Now, he can drive, he can shoot, he can rebound, he can block shots, but he is not the person that you want running the point. And I don't know how Harris thought that was going to be something they could build a team around, let him run the point, run the offense through him. They can't get Kyrie out of therapy fast enough to get him back on the court. So
Well, the
don't
challenge is
call this
this.
a bad trade and then trying to make Cooper Flag point forward and run the offense through him.
I would say this: until Kyrie Irving is back, They're just experimenting with with what they can do, in my opinion. And the reality of it is, I think Cooper Flag, even being from Duke, your favorite school, is potentially
For
a great
basketball.
player. He is, yeah. And I would say this: he is a potential talent. But the reality of it is, you experiment with things. You figure out what you got. Until Kyrie Irving gets back on the court, they're not going to be complete. And so you experiment, see what he can do. He's in the NBL. Everything doesn't translate from college to the professionals, and so you kind of experiment with your roster until your main guy gets back and see what's going on. Was it the right thing to do to get rid of Nico Harrison? I can't say that was the case, but I would say that if they handle him right, I think Cooper Flag is a better fit for the Dallas Mavericks than Luka is going to be. They are, I think, a couple of more players away from getting back, maybe to the conference finals and or to the NBA finals. But I don't think Luka ever would have worked out for the
No,
Mavericks
it
in
wouldn't have.
the
He's a
championship.
19-year-old kid, so there's lots of uptime on him, Tom. So, what's our next sports story?
Next we'll talk about NCAA college football, Jimmy. We're getting a little bit closer to the end of the league. Of course, Ohio State is looking like, again, it's Ohio State and then everybody else. The University of Indiana just got past the scare this past weekend with Penn State, which everybody thought would have been a
This is the
hometown
first time in
winner.
a while, Tom, that I can remember them getting past Penn State.
It's the first time, I
It's the
believe,
first time, okay.
at their stadium, I believe it was.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think this was the very first time that they've done that. The coach, I think this is 2 years of having 10 plus wins, and so Indiana is looking pretty good. But they had a scare with Penn State this past weekend. They were able to get a last minute field goal, and it would have been a complete disaster if they would have lost that game, but they were able to pull it out. But Indiana's still in that number 2 slot in the
Remind me, Tom, real quick, who's in the number 3 spot?
Texas A&M is in the number 3 spot. Of
Is
course, we
that,
both know
is that your alma mater, Tom?
Yes,
Who you play
that
for?
is our alma mater. And I'm going to say something that I have not said this year thus far, is that even though they played a team with a true freshman quarterback, because they lost their starting quarterback, they did show some potential, but this is the caveat. The reality of it is, what I did admit for the very first time is that they've got a coaching staff. Looking at the plays on the offensive and defensive side of the field, they do have a coaching staff. They do know how to call plays. Now, what I am looking sideways at is they had not one but 2 100-yard rushers against them this past week, which ain't a good look. It ain't cute at all.
But Tom,
Because
they have a defense. Their quarterback is a running quarterback. He knows how to get the job done. I watched him over the weekend. The first time I actually watched a complete game, and I was impressed. I mean, they started off a little shaky, but once they got rolling, they got rolling. So
this you're right, and this is the challenge, Jimmy. Their run defense is a bit porous. They have a great pass defense. They've got some great edge rushers. Quarterback, he is continuing to develop. He is a redshirt sophomore, so he is doing well. But their issues are in between those tackles, because if and when they get to the playoffs, they're going to come
yeah,
against some teams with some dogs, and they ain't going to go very far. They better hope, because they play South Carolina this weekend, they play Stanford next weekend, and then it's to Texas, and Texas is going to be the next challenge. The only 2 teams, legit teams, they played this year is Notre Dame and Missouri. And Missouri, they played without their starting quarterback. They were playing with a freshman quarterback. And Mike Elko and his defensive play calling did frustrate that true freshman quarterback. And so I'll say 2 teams they played. They haven't played Bama. They're not going to play Bama. They haven't played
not
Georgia.
this
They're not
season.
going to play Georgia. They are not playing Ole Miss this year. They have not played the best teams in the SEC. And so
So
it's
Georgia
Texas.
is crawled back in there, Tom. So let's give a big shout out to the Texas teams. We have A&M at 3. The University of Texas is crawled back in there,
And Texas Tech.
and then Texas Tech. So we have 3 Texas teams. So I think if you're going to try to make the argument which state is better for football, Texas or Florida, I think it's been settled
Right
that
now it is.
that
This
Texas
year,
is still number 1 for football recruiting and for college football, for its overall number of football programs that are in the top 12.
yeah. As for this year, I would have to agree with you on that. But I will give them credit for having a coaching staff, because, as we both discussed, the degree of player talent has neutralized across the NCAA. So you don't have one or two teams that are just dominating every year, with the exception of maybe Ohio State. Ohio State is dominating, but ultimately, I will have to give Texas A&M some credit. Finally, for coaching, because they actually showed something that they were able to do with a team that was able to run up and down the field on them. So we'll see what happens this week with South Carolina. They cannot overlook them because they have a very good quarterback who is a dual threat, and we'll see what happens there. But I will also have to tip my hats off to Texas Tech, who dominated Brigham Young University this past weekend as well. And I did look at that game. Texas Tech has a defense. Texas Tech has a defense.
They do.
So,
Oh, they're a really good defense, Tom. They fast on the edges. So yeah, they did a job on BYU. I'm sorry about that. My
you
dog
know,
could bark, my guard dog. I'm not sure why BYU was even considered that high. I know
they
they
were
were undefeated,
undefeated.
Tom, but they
Yeah.
hadn't really played. They shouldn't have scheduled. How the hell they get in the top 10 like that? So
Well,
I think they
if
were
you look at the
exposed.
top 25, Jimmy, it's kind. I'm not going to say it's soft, but if you look at the top 25 and who's even in the top 15 or 20, it's not your traditional blue bloods. I mean, your Michigans, your Ohio States, and some of your blue blood teams. It's a different kind of year if you look at that top 20.
Well, Tom, it's that portal, man. Players are just moving. They play 1 year, they don't like it, they don't get paid enough. They move to another team, so they're moving in and out, and all that NIL money floating around incentivizes players. And then I'm not sure. I mean, what's going on with the eligibility rule? It seems like some of these players have been around 6 or 7 years and still playing college football and getting paid. I'm like, wait a minute, how in the world are you still in school after 6 years playing football? Should your
Hey,
eligibility have run out by now?
Jimmy, they're gonna probably make more money in college than they are in the
They
pros.
do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of these college players who probably don't have much of a pro future, some of them making 1, 2 million. I mean, I know Archie Manning is the highest paid college player at 6 million a year.
Overpaid, in my opinion.
Okay,
Overpaid based upon his performance.
but I didn't realize there were how many players actually making over $1 million a year. Tell me that list is extensive. So I thought there was no money in college football, but evidently
There is now.
there's a ton of money in there now. So because that was always a knock, we can't pay college players because there's no extra money available. But somehow millions and millions of dollars are popping up to pay players now.
Hey, the money's always been there. It's just been under the table.
Well, now it's above the table, so you don't have to hide how much you're paying someone. So
Gotcha.
what's the kid for who played at Georgia who went to Miami? I think he's second highest, paid $4 million a year.
Gotcha.
Um,
Stetson Bennett.
hmm?
Stetson Bennett.
So yeah, and so yeah, some of these players are making pretty good loot at playing college ball now. So
Gotcha.
not
All
bad
right.
at it.
We'll end with it's mid-season. It's mid-season. Who do you think? Who are your best teams in the AFC and the NFC at the mid-season level? We got a lot of football.
Uh, I know the Chiefs don't look that good, Tom, but you
They
really
don't.
can't bet against the Chiefs, man. They were, especially in the AFC. I know this is probably the year that the Bills think they have a chance, then Baltimore. Um, I know they're record-wise not
They're
looking
they're,
great,
they're under 500 right now. Four and
but I
five.
think the second half of the season they were turned around. I know Pittsburgh looked good, but they always falter down the stretch. They'll get in there, but I'm still, if I was a bet man, I still put my money on the Chiefs for the AFC, and then over in the NFC, I still have to go with Philadelphia, the Chicken Heads, to get back in there. So it hates me to say, it hurts my heart to say it, Tom, but they probably will get back to the NFC Championship for with the talent that they have. So
Gotcha. You know what?
I do want to point this out to you, Tom. You were big on those Washington Commanders at the beginning of the season.
They were. I was expecting, but hey, in injury to insult, yeah, they, when you're a key player, well, two things, his sophomore season, they've run the tape on him, they figured out, and then of course, Jaden Daniels has been injured a couple of times this year already, and he's really, the centerpiece of that team. So without him, they have definitely been struggling. So
Yes, they have.
I would say in the AFC you have a couple of times. I'm surprised nobody probably would have bet that Indianapolis or Denver would be at the top of the charts at the beginning of the year. And Indianapolis looks very good. They got the best running back in the league with Jonathan Taylor.
I haven't watched them play this year.
I'm not
I did see
sold
the
on
Denver game
Daniel
against the
Jones.
Cowboys. They did a job on that time.
I'm not sold on Daniel Jones in the big games.
Okay.
That's my concern. And
What
so
about that defense from Denver?
all defense, yeah, and that doggone coach, former New Orleans Saints coach. What?
No, former Cowboy coach. We
No,
let him go.
Sean Payton. Sean Payton.
Yeah, we let him go. So
Well,
the
he was
Saints-
an assistant coach. He wasn't a head coach. He was an assistant coach with the Cowboys. That was Sean Payton, who coached for the New Orleans Saints. I would say right now, strangely enough, interesting is if I'm looking at it, the New England Patriots are playing some of the best football right now in the
They're pretty
AFC.
good, yeah.
It's like watching paint dry, as you would say, but the New England Patriots are actually playing the best football right now. And I think after that, I'm going to give the Chargers, even though I am not a big Chargers fan. But I'm going to say right now, the New England Patriots and the Chargers, I don't know what the heck is happening in Buffalo. I have no idea what's happening in Buffalo. And in the NFC,
Well,
If I put my-
their Super Bowls beat the Chargers, Tom.
yeah. And I would say on the eye test, the Seattle Seahawks. It's regular season. I cannot trust them when it comes to the playoffs. But right now, the Seattle Seahawks, I think, are playing the best football in the NFC.
Oh, you
And-
think so? Okay. I may
Yeah,
have to
and-
check them out. I haven't watched them play, but next time they come on TV, I'll give them a look.
Yeah, now we're talking regular season now. When it comes to the playoffs, the problem you've got is that guy Sam Darnold, and he implodes in the playoffs. So it might be lights out when he gets to the playoffs, but Sam Darnold is playing lights out in the regular season. So I'm gonna give the Seattle the nod mid-season right now, and I'm gonna give in the AFC, I'm gonna have to give it to the New England Patriots with their young quarterback
What?
Drake May.
You know, better get to the
Mid-season, yeah. By the end of the season, it may be different.
okay, you're gonna bet against the Chiefs, man. I'm telling you,
I'm
they'll
not
bounce
betting against
back.
them. I'm not betting against them to the Super Bowl, but at least right now,
Okay, I got you.
because
All right.
the Chiefs are getting healthy. They're getting their players back.
I'm saying Philadelphia and the Chiefs, and you're saying Seattle and the Patriots. Okay,
Right, the Patriots.
all right.
All
We'll
right,
see
Jimmy.
we'll see how it turns out the second half of the season.
All right, well, we're at the top of the hour, and that is our show. We hope you've enjoyed
Oh,
everything.
one more announcement, T, before we
Yes.
go. We may experiment Friday. We'll see with the possibility of doing an open mic show, where we let the audience pick our topics. You guys tell us what y'all want us to talk about, and we'll go from there, and we'll see how that turns out. We may just experiment. We'll test it. If it works out well, we'll do more of them. If it doesn't, then we'll have to go back to having Tom go out and gather up all our news stories and figure out what we're going to talk about each week. So that's just an announcement. So start getting your thoughts together for next week's show. And if you want to participate, you got some things you want us to talk about, feel free to reach out to us on the chat line and put the subject in there, and we'll go from there.
All right, folks, we want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Make sure that you like this show. Make sure you share it with anybody. If you have not, of course, subscribe, and we will see you next week, because if it's Wednesday night,
It's Black Man Speak.
good night, everyone.